you have continued to work your business in addition to running your campaign. How is that juggling going? Because it's a lot of work running a campaign just on the city level, let alone state or for Congress.
Well,
how do you field the calls, and where can people call you? Actually, we'll get to that in a minute too.
I'm glad you asked, because my wife and kids asked me the same thing. You know, it's just, thankfully, bee work, a lot of it happens at night or in the early mornings. That's where we transport the bees around. You know, the bees have to be home in their hives, and we come in and we pick them up and we take them to where they're going, and then you know, we give them the love that they need when they get to their destination. So we've been fortunate so far. We've been just basically doing 2 full-time jobs. You know, one at night and in the early mornings, and then grab a few winks of sleep when we can, and then into the campaign office and work there, because we're building a real grassroots campaign, because I'm not a professional politician. You know, I didn't start with a city council race and jump to a supervisor and then assembly. You know, we're building it from the ground up. Which is more difficult to build that infrastructure you need that's going to take you on to victory in November. But I think if we can get it built, if we can work as hard as we've been working, and my dad told me when I was a little kid, you know, son, that crop's not going to grow itself. you can grow anything, but you have to get out in that field and work. And so that's what we've been doing, and we've been doing it for about a year now. And so once we get it developed, I think we're going to have a great shot to take it to victory in November, because people are tired of the same old politics as usual. They're tired of the finger pointing and the obstructionism. They want, and again, they deserve some solutions. And you know, a farmer like me, I think I'll bring a fresh perspective, some common sense, and a willingness to work across the aisle right now. I think that's the problem on both sides, where people are stuck to their ideologies, and they're both saying, you know, if I can't have my way, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Well, that doesn't do the good folks that they represent any good. So, you know, we need a fresh perspective in Congress right now, and I think I can do a good job representing California 10.
You are a beekeeper, in addition to being a farmer of the 40 acres.
Yeah.
Tell me how watching those bees day after day pollinate and go back into the hive and make the honey, and those worker bees, tell me how your job as a beekeeper will help you with building the hive for California, District 10 specifically. Do you see us as a bunch of workers making honey too?
Well, making crops. I mean, bees touch, you know, 1/3 of everything we eat. Bee has something to do with that production. I think what makes me uniquely qualified to go to Congress as a beekeeper, you know, people say, hey, what, you know, how does that qualify you? Well, it's a small business. Again, we work with a lot of different types of commodities, right? Where, you know, any kind of farming venture, a beekeeper, if we're not directly related, we're kind of indirectly related. And so I'm used to working with my growers. And let's face it, probably 90% of my growers happen to be Republicans. I happen to be a Democrat. We're not going to see eye to eye in every issue, but Athens, we can always agree on, you know, what it's going to take to get the job done, you know, what's going to happen from A to Z. And if a problem pops up somewhere in the middle, we know how to work together to solve it. Now, we might not solve it 100% of the time, but, you know, maybe perhaps 75 or 80%. But at least we keep the economy moving. At least we keep the ball going down the road. And now, instead of having this huge problem, we only have this small problem. And now we're used to working with each other. So when we need to focus on consensus, what you and I can both agree with at the beginning, and then work out from there, instead of starting out here at the edges and try to find a solution in the middle.
Exactly. I think that even sometimes Republicans don't agree with Republicans, or Democrats with Democrats. So I agree. It's good to see what the common ground is to begin with, and then work from there. So as a small businessman, do you see how that can transfer to your working in Congress? Do you think that experience with that, or do you see it more like working with the farmers, and that will help you? In other words, what are you bringing from experience to Congress?
Well, I mean, I think that's what the founders had in mind when they created our wonderful system of government. I think they wanted people everyday people from the community that, understand the community and understand the economy of the community, who speak that community's language. And I think I'm a perfect fit for that because, I work these problems, I live these problems. They're the same problems I have are the same problems my neighbors have. And not just in California 10, but in the whole, Central Valley.